Good morning, evening, afternoon, whatever it might happen to be for you over there on the other side of the screen, watching me over here on this side of the screen in the cold, in the snow. I actually waited till late afternoon to do this video because it was like 20 degrees this morning and it is up to like 36 now, Fahrenheit. So it's a little bit more enjoyable to be out here. Not so bad. I am actually a couple thousand feet above where I live right now, and down there all the snow is gone, melted, disappeared. Here it is still here. I wasn't being smart, hold on, I didn't see them earlier. They must have been way out there. They're talking about me. That guy's just sitting in a lawn chair. Anywho, wait for their muffler to go away just a little bit more. Anyway, so I wasn't quite thinking this through. I've been off for the last few days, and yeah, I wasn't ready for the snow, so I'm wearing my tennis shoes and just some blue jeans, no beanie, and that's my problem, not yours. So today we are going to go over a purchase I just made that hundreds of thousands of other people have also purchased and have used both successfully and unsuccessfully. So I have purchased this item, and I am going to show you kind of an overview of how I installed it and how I used it and how I modified it for my personal use on the Jeep here, as well as another Jeep, as well as the Nissan Titan. So what we bought was a Harbor Freight or a Pittsburgh brand manual tire changer and manual wheel balancer. So first off, out of the box, neither one of these pieces of junk worked, just as hundreds of thousands of other people have discovered, and I had to make some modifications. But first, let me tell you why. Why did I buy these? Well, it's pretty obvious. If you've watched the channel, I go through cars really fast, and not really fast, but fairly fast, and I go through tires way faster than cars. Mainly because every car I buy ends up needing new tires. And I don't just buy brand new tires, I buy Facebook Marketplace deals that are pretty decent condition, which then of course you're not starting fresh, so those wear out pretty quick, and then you need new tires, and I buy more Facebook tires, and we're gonna have to wait for this wind to die down. The wind is an endless cycle up here when I'm filming these videos. Ooh, it's cold. And it's really annoying, but it's South Dakota, it's always windy, it's what you get. And some of these voiceovers for like a 15-minute video take almost an hour to do because I just have to keep waiting for the wind to die down because it's insanely annoying. Alright, so you can still hear the wind in the treetops. I'm sorry, I wait for it to be done at surface level with all the leaves, but it can't do nothing about the treetops. So anyway, my first clue that this tire changer, why we do tires. So I pay for a lot of tires. I buy used, so they're cheaper. Most of them. Sarah's car, the wife, always gets new tires, and the Super Duty always gets new tires because I need those two vehicles to not have tire problems. The ones that I drive without trailers on and stuff, I don't really care about too much, like this, big deal. So, anywho, I end up spending about 120 bucks or so every time I change out tires, just for the shop to remove the old ones, mount the new ones, and balance them, and I pay that about 3, maybe 4 times a year with as many tires as I go through. So over a course of a year, I spend well over, or right around $500 in tire change outs. Manual tire changer itself cost me about 60 bucks. The wheel balancer I wasted about $80 on, and then I bought some weights for another 8 bucks or so. So in the very first change out, this is almost paid for itself, right? And I've already used this setup 9 times for 9 different tires after I set it up. So it's paid for itself already, even the wasted $80 on the balancer, which we'll get to. Stay tuned, we're getting there. Here comes more wind. This is gonna be a very, very, very long time sitting in this cold for me. So my first hint that this tire changer might not work the way I wanted it to is right on the box. It says it doesn't really say what it's trying to say, but it indicates that it's only good for wheels up from 8 to 16 inches. That's a problem for me because all of my rims are 17 inches or bigger. Actually, they're all either 17s or 18s. That's all I have. Pretty much these are 17. Every other vehicle I own is an 18. That's just the way it is right now. So that was my first thought that, oh crap, this might not work as good, but hundreds of thousands of you guys have bought these tire changers, so I'm like, it'll work, we'll make it work. So I unboxed the tire changer. That was the first step, unboxing it to see what we're working with, and I started to assemble it. The first problem, the physical first problem, was where the tube meets the base plate, where you bolt your C channel to. When they welded that together, it got so warped. You bolted the C channel to it and it was like U-shaped. It was bad warped. Plus, just tightening it down, the first one I used a ratchet and a wrench, and when that didn't work out so great, I went to the impact. Either way, I stripped the threads off of every single bolt. All 4 bolts, the threads came off of when I tried to tighten it up. But that aside, once the C channel, the feet were in place, the base, they were like U-shaped because that plate was so bent up from when they welded it way too hot. So I pulled those back off because, you know, you needed new hardware either way. And then I grabbed my 4-pound sledgehammer, hand sledge, and I started just beating on that plate, trying to straighten it out. And at this point, I already decided we're going to do something different. I'm going to weld these on instead of bolting because this is just stupid. You got to go to Ace Hardware to buy new hardware, which Ace Hardware charges you freaking dumb, stupid, crap amounts of dollars for a bolt. Shoot, man, like a grade 8 bolt, a 3-inch grade 8 bolt costs like $2.89 at Ace Hardware each. Ridiculous, guys. So I welded it together as you'll see here, and then I mounted it to the floor. We'll get there in just a second about how we mounted it together. All right, so once I had it all welded together and where it would sit flat on the floor, you know, because I beat it back out and I adjusted it and all that good stuff, I went to my local Ace Hardware, and despite being expensive, but it's walking distance, so it's convenient, and I was looking for some all-thread. I wanted the all-thread couplings, the things, you know, they're like probably, I don't know, 2.5 inches deep. They're like a nut, but for all-thread, right? And I found them there. I found some 3/8 by 16 threads, all-thread couplings that were stupidly expensive, so I put those back in the bin, hooked out, boom, went to my local Runnings and found the same thing for about 1/3 of the price, and I bought 4 of those. I bought some bolts to match and a couple of washers, and I went back to the house. So the goal, or my vision behind using these couplings, is I was going to use them as anchors. I didn't want to use a normal concrete anchor because they're always they're just rough around the edges. They're not what I was looking for. So I got the all thread, and I decided I was going to use those as anchors. So I had to drill some holes. More wind. Gosh, it's getting cold, man. This wind needs to stop so I can finish this video that we just barely started. I've already been out here for like 15 minutes or more, and we probably only got 2 minutes of video down because this wind keeps going. We're gonna try and talk through the wind because it's cold and it's not, oh, now it's getting stronger. Hold on. So I decided to drill some holes in my concrete slab in the middle of my garage floor, right where I parked the cars, and I knew I was going to need 4. So I marked them out based off of the measurements of the tire changing thingy majiggy piece of crap. Actually, the tire changer's not, well, we're going to keep that out. Ah, dang, the stupid wind, would you stop? We're just going to go through it. So I zinged some holes. I found the right size drill bit that the couplings would fit in, and I drilled those. My slab is about 4 inches thick, and I went pretty much all the way to the dirt in all 4 holes, right? So then I went and I did this very safely. I even wore eyeglasses and earplugs, and I scuffed up the outside of these couplings with a grinder in my hand. Yes, I know, it's not safe. Okay, relax, guys. But anyway, I scuffed up the outsides of these couplings just to give some grip to them. And then I used some Redhead A7 epoxy to essentially fill the holes and stick these couplings in and hold them there. I recently, about a year ago, came upon this A7 Redhead stuff, and it is amazing. That's what's holding the 2-post lift in the floor, really, because the anchors kept coming out. The epoxy isn't budged, not an inch, well, an inch would be dramatic, not a centimeter, millimeter, millimeter, nothing. It hasn't moved at all. The epoxy is amazing. So I use the epoxy here, Now, when I did the epoxy, it's expensive. It's like 20 some dollars a tube, and I used almost the whole tube, which was actually very surprising to me. But anyway, so that's why I scuffed up the outside of the couplings. I followed the instructions on the tube. I taped the bottom of the coupling to keep the epoxy from coming up into the thread portion and put a bolt on top. Filled the holes in the concrete up about 3/4 of the way, and then shoved those anchors down in the epoxy, right? And then I went with some more epoxy and just filled up the rest of the hole, anything that was left, and that is how I anchored this sucker down. Now, my goal with these types of anchors, I'm calling them anchors because that's what I'm using them for, is that when I'm not using the tire changer, which is 99.9% of the time, I can not have it bolted to the floor. So I had bought some 3-inch grade 8 hardware to bolt the tire changer to the floor when I'm using it, and I just got some 1-inch bolts, again from my local Runnings, because they're affordable when it comes to hardware, not unlike Ace. And I just thread those 1-inch bolts into the couplings when it's not in use. Sure, those bolt heads stick above the floor, but I mean, it's what, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch tops. If you pick up your feet like your daddy taught you, it's not an issue. All right, so at this point, we are ready to try the tire changer manually. And so the Nissan Titan, I have a set of winter tires on there right now. The summer tires were bigger, and I wanted to have a spare tire the same size, especially in the winter, because I use 4-wheel drive a lot, you know, in the snow and the ice and stuff. So I picked up, and again, Facebook Marketplace special, I picked up a spare tire for the Titan, and I decided to do that first. And the tire size I'm running on the Titan is a 265/75/18. The tire that was coming off was a 275/75/18, right? And I scratched the absolute living daylights out of that rim trying to use this tire changer to get it off. I've done tires before by myself on the garage floor with no tools other than spoons, and that's about what that rim looked like when I was done. It was not pretty. It was not good at all. By the way, everything I use, everything we're getting to, I will link down below. All the parts, the supplies, the tools, all that. I will link in Amazon down below, okay? So I decided to YouTube and figure out what everybody else does to change tires, because hundreds upon hundreds of thousands of people have bought these things. They've got to be changing 18-inch tires, right? That's when I found out everybody modifies these things. Not everybody, but the vast majority of people that are being successful and having an easy time modified the crap out of this tire changer, so I decided to do that myself. So I had some scrap tubing laying around. I know everybody doesn't have this, and I didn't make measurements, so I'm sorry. You'll just have to figure it out. Watch the 500,000 other videos. This isn't a video on how I modified it. I'm just giving you an overview. There's tons and tons of videos. I just duplicated what everybody else did that all stole it from somebody else that stole it from somebody else. So no trying to take credit for anything I did here. I just stole everybody else's things that they stole from everybody else. So essentially, I just took a round piece of tube that would fit over the existing spin-on post of the tire changer, got a couple of clamps to clamp that in place, welded some square tube to that round tube, and stuck it out about 12 inches, which allows me to do a 22-inch tire, theoretically, and which I'm not a 22-inch tire kind of guy, 22-inch rim kind of guy. And then I just took a couple more pieces of square tubing and meshed them together to make a duckbill thing, bought a duckbill, all that stuff I'll link below except the steel, and I modified it like hundreds of thousands of you guys have already modified it. Not a big deal there. It was pretty easy, actually, being who I am with the resources I have. So now that we've modified the crap out of this thing so it'll work, let me show you how I changed my tires. So the Titan I already did the hard way. But the Jeep, I had some different rims. These tires were on the Jeep, but different rims. And I wanted to switch these rims out and keep the tires, so that is what I did. And then the rims that were here, I put a different set of tires on, which is how I get to 9 tires that I've swapped out already, right? So the process is really easy now that you have modified your tire changer so that it will actually work without damaging, you know, your whole world. So these tires are 245/75/17, and the tires that I put on the rims that were on here were 245/65/17s, right? So Before we even get started, knowing that I want to balance these, I pull the tires off the Jeep, the tires and rim combo, and I pull all the big rocks out of them because I know I want to balance it, and that's going to throw off the balance. I'm trying to be a good guy here and do things properly. So I pop the center cap out of the wheel. You'll need to do that. Not a big deal. Screwdriver, a piece of wood, whatever you got your fingers. And then I put the tire in place on the bead breaker of the manual tire changer, leaving the face of the rim up. Probably don't have to do that side first, just the side I decided to do first. I pull the valve stem out so that the 35 psi sitting in the tire can escape, and while I'm waiting, because I'm an impatient doofus, I start trying to break the bead. And I actually found that while your air is escaping, it was easier to break the bead, and I think it's because as soon as you push that sidewall down or the bead down enough where air can escape, all that extra pressure in the tire wants to escape as well, and it just pushed the whole tire off the bead of that side of the rim. So once that's done, you flip it upside down. You do the same thing on the other side. The back side, the bead doesn't break as easy, I found. It's actually a lot harder to get that side off, but the tire will also not go down all the way into the rim like the first side. So once you get it down like a ½ inch, it seemed to be adequate and good to go. So I did find at this point that the tire lube, I bought some tire lube, I will link that down below, did not help with breaking the bead. All it did is make the tool, the bead breaker, slide around the tire, and I couldn't keep it where I wanted it. So these gusts are getting longer and longer every time too, which means I'm just sitting here going cold. So anyway, after the first 3 tires, I tried the 4th one without any lube to break the bead, and that one, and then 4 after it, I decided it was easier without lubing to break the bead. You may have a different opinion. That's just where I stand than what I found. So if you're using a duckbill attachment modification like I am, and I've decided to do, you want to remove any stick-on weights before you get to this point. You got to remove them at some point anyway, but now would be a very good time before you put the duckbill on, because your duckbill will catch on that, and I have a plastic duckbill, and it scratched that up pretty good, I found out. So take those off now. Get them out of your way. So now, before I throw this up on the manual tire changer so I don't have to get upside down and lube things in my face, I went ahead and lubed the bead area and the rim on the back side of the tire before I threw it on the changer. Now I can throw it on the changer. Something that I want to figure out, something different on how to do, is that the tire post that keeps your tire from spinning around on the manual tire changer, that is a pain in the butt to manipulate when you're dealing with a tire this size. This isn't even a big tire, but trying to reach around and hold everything, it was a pain in the absolute ass. If you got a better solution that is easy, let me know. I've seen some solutions, but I'm talking easier solution, not some complicated 5 different holes for different lug pattern thing. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for easy. So anyway, let me know if you found that. Alright, so now that your tire is in place, I bought 2 different centering cones because I have multiple different tires. Some have really small bores like this one, and others have really big bores. So I bought 2 different styles. I will link them both down below. Both worked on the Titan and the Jeep, and everything was good with those, so they worked out good. And then I put the manual tire changer thing on top of that. I didn't do that at first with the centering cone. I didn't think I needed to, but the metal from the tire changer was scratching on the centering cones, and it just wasn't sounding great, so I went ahead and put the Harbor Freight one as a sacrificial spacer almost. That's just what I did. So then you slide your duckbill modification in place, and I lubed the top side of the tire and the rim. Lube absolutely helps with this portion, just not with the bead breaking. Everything else it helped with. And I will link this brush down below as well that I used. So also keep in mind, if your tires are directional, you're going to want to pay attention to that later when you go to mount new things. By the way, you got to envision which way you're going to be spinning, but you know, I don't know why I put that in my checklist right here in the middle. That was weird. All right. So the duckbill I ordered, I'm going to order another one, a steel one, just because I want to have an option. This plastic one, I don't know if they're all like this. This is the first duckbill I've ever had, but the tongue portion of the duckbill has no lip to hold the tire onto it. And I feel like that could be a very dramatic improvement. Might hurt, might hinder, and maybe mine's just wrong. Maybe they're all like this, I don't know. But I'm going to order another one just to find out, and then if this plastic one ever breaks, I have a backup solution, because if I'm changing tires, I clearly don't want to, you know, get stuck with not being able to finish changing tires. The plastic one seems very heavy duty. I would recommend it, absolutely. I just did 9 tires with it. I just, you know, I like to have a backup plan. So because there's no lip to hold the tire in place, it did make things a little bit more difficult and a little bit more challenging. But as far as removing a tire, you're going to get the duckbill in place, put it on the rim, get it nice and tight if you can, and then you're going to use your tire iron, which I will link down below. Lip it, boom, pull it up, and get it over that tongue, okay? Once it's over that tongue, some of the tires I got lucky and I didn't have to hold. Other tires I had to hold. Other tires took 2 to 3 attempts. So completely random here. Maybe that's a duckbill problem. Maybe it's an operator problem. Maybe it's a tire problem because I did 3 different types of tires. I don't know. But get that tire iron in there, flip it up over the tongue, and then I had to hold the tire iron in place until I got the duckbill about 1/4 of the way around the tire, and the tire was folded over the rim. There's a couple times I had to use 2 tire irons, one to keep on the duckbill, one to keep in place on the rim, and that worked better. You'll have to figure it out yourself. I don't know the science. I've only done 9 tires. I'm not a pro. I'm not a mechanic. I'm not a tire guy. Just this is what I found in 9 tires worth of time. So once you've got everything in place, you got your tire irons in place, I just slid the main bar that came with the tire changer and put it on my belt and walked into it, and it seemed to work pretty good. I've watched a lot of YouTube videos where people say, oh, it takes no pressure at all. No pressure. Shouldn't take no pressure. Okay, I'm a 220-pound pile of fat, and I had to use pretty much every pound of fat I got to move some of these tires. Some of the exact same ones. Some were easy, some were hard. I don't know rhyme or reason, but some of them just wouldn't go. So take that as you will. I don't know the right answer, but there's a lot of YouTubers that said, takes no pressure, nothing at all. A couple of mine took a lot of pressure. So once you get the top lip off of the tire, then you do the exact same thing for the bottom. Absolutely no difference, except it's a lot bigger of a pain in the butt because you got to pick up the tire where it's next to your belly, pick it up, hold it with your belly, reach over, grab the other side, and stick your tire iron in, pull the tire up, and fold it over. It's the only difference. It was a little harder, took a little bit to figure that out. It took me about 3 tires before I got the process on that. If you're spinning, whether you're trying to install it or pull it off, and the tire is spinning with you because you put on too much lube like I do, surprisingly little amount of force from your hand while you move will hold it in place. Very surprisingly little force. Alright, so now your rim is naked. Get the rest of the weights off if you forgot to before. Clean it up, dry it up, get the lube off so you don't have excessive lube in there. And you can grab your new tire, your used tire, whatever. In this case, I'm putting used tires on these rims. Clean your tire up. If they've been sitting in the dirt like most of mine do, you're going to want to get all that dirt off the mating surface and a couple inches above just so you have some working room. Clean the inside of the tire, get the cobwebs, the leaves, the dirt, the water, whatever you have in there, get it all out. You want a clean tire, right? Before I put this on, this is where you need to know if your tire is directional or not. If it's directional, you got to be cognizant of which way you mount it on the rim. If it's non-directional, it don't matter. I just picked a side, lubed that side of the bead up. That's going to be the bottom side, just so I don't have to get upside down again, you know what I mean? And then I kind of just put it up there and I put it in place. So this is where a lot of people try to manhandle it in, just see if they can do that. I found it easier after doing 9 tires just to let the tool do the work, not to try and force it by hand. Just get it in place, get the tool in place, and then just whoop. It's the exact same process as before, including using tire irons. So when it comes to the top side of the tire, like this side, the side that you see, I bought these tire clamps, again linked below, and I don't know how much they helped. It made it easier for sure, but they're not necessary. But it did make it easier. They were 20 bucks for a set of 4. I will link those down below, of course. And I would recommend it because it did make it easier. So you stick that in place, get your lip open, blah, 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 walk around, pop it into place, all good to go. So at this point, I installed the valve stem. A lot of you guys like to set your bead with the valve stem out of the tire. I do it with it in, mainly because none of my air chucks work without the valve stem. I don't know. For some reason, I need the valve stem in there for my tire chucks to work. So that's what I used, and it worked out just fine. I wasn't able to mount or set the bead on any of my tires on the stand. I had to take them off. You need the tire to kind of seal around the rim in order to get the bead to set. Otherwise, the air is just going to blow out. I got all 9 of them to set standing up. Some of them I had to move the rim around a little bit while I was doing it. Others I kicked a little bit, bounced on the tread, but they all sealed at some point and they all blew the beads. Some of the bead would look like it wasn't going to set until we got to about 30-35 psi before it finally whap! Ow! It is cold! That hurt! Oh, don't do that. Anyway. And then I just filled them up to about 35 psi or whatever that vehicle happened to take. Once I was filled up and the bead had sat, you know, look around, I took a spray bottle with some soapy water and I just sprayed it around the bead area where the tire seals and made sure there's no air bubbles. After 9 tires, not a single leak. I've been driving these no problem. All right, so that's enough with the tire changer. Would I recommend buying the tire changer? Only if you're planning on modifying it the way I did, like everybody else seems to. I would not have bought it, knowing what I know now, I would have made the modifications obviously anyway, but if you are not capable and you're not going to make the modifications, I would not recommend buying it. Not worth it. You're going to scratch the hell out of your rims. So let's talk about the bubble balancer, right? I was all excited to not pay a shop no more, and I'm still planning on not paying a shop no more. There's a modification you can do to this too, and I tried it, mainly because out of the box you put it in, and I was excited that mine was actually going to work because I could flip it on my finger and it would wobble, wibble, wibble, spin, wobble, wobble, and set dead center again. Now when I first did this and set it on the floor, I found a nice flat spot. The bubble was not perfectly centered, so I used the adjustment screws on top, the bubble adjusters, until the bubble was centered, right? Didn't take much adjusting, but it did take a little. Well, the very first tire I put on there was one of these, and I took a lot of weights off these tires. Walmart had mounted and balanced these for me when I bought these tires brand new because I couldn't find used ones that I wanted at the time. And let's just pretend it's this tire. I think it was the front driver, but let's just say this tire. This tire had about 5 3/4 ounces on it before I dismounted it and swapped the rim. So I expected to put somewhere about 5 to 6 ounces on it when I balanced it. Well, I take this and I set it on that balancer and the bubble's perfect. Perfect, dead center, perfect. And I'm like, well, that's interesting. So I take the tire and I wobble it and spin it, and it does this whole wobble spin, and it comes back and it settles dead freaking center. And I'm like, interesting. So either Walmart had no idea what they were doing, even though the Jeep drove beautifully with those tires balanced the way they were from Walmart, or that rim that this was on was bad. Don't know. So I take it off and I put the next tire on, which had about 3.5 ounces on it, balanced from Walmart. And I put that one on there, naked, no weights, and again, exact same thing, perfectly balanced. So now I'm thinking, okay, this thing ain't working. So I take a whole box, well no, I took like 8 ounces worth of weights, and I put them on one of the tires in a very random spot. I just picked a spot, boom, did a whole wobble, spun it, and it settled back to dead perfect. Took those weights off, dead perfect. So this bubble balancer is worthless. Wish I didn't spend my money on it. I looked on YouTube, people drill out the hole where the point meets to make it so that there's less friction. I did that as well, and I still did not have good results. So at this point, these are running around unbalanced, and it is very obviously unbalanced on the road. Very obvious, especially after 60 miles an hour. So I'm going to do something different. I ordered some balance beads. You guys have seen me do balance beads in the white F250 a while back. I'm going to do the same thing in here, and we're going to see how it works. That's a different video. For now, that's all I got for this video. When I say that's all I got, I mean, right now, this has taken over an hour to film this voiceover. Now, a lot of that's been sitting here waiting for the wind to die down. It comes, it goes, it comes, it goes. So we've been doing this for like an hour now. I'm freaking cold. My fingers hurt. And then I clapped them earlier, and that still hurts. My toes are a little frozen at the moment. So it's been a long time. I don't know how long this video is actually right now, but that's all I'm going to talk about going forward for this video. Guys, everything I used except the steel, I will link down below in my Amazon. account, affiliate account. I make commission off anything you buy, or if you click on my link and then buy something else, I make a commission off of that as well, as long as you don't click on somebody else's link after mine. So all of that helps, guys. I've got a Zelle link as well as a PayPal link down there if you want to donate directly to the channel to keep these videos coming. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. I'm going to freaking warm up because I'm cold. Adios. Goodbye. Peace out. Oh, yeah, it's cold. Let me get this running real quick, get the heater going.